Hello, so I don't usually do reviews of, anything really on the channel. When the podcast was up, yeah, we did reviews of games and TV shows and movies. But since the podcast stopped, that that kind of content stopped. But I was watching The Last of Us and I was thinking, you know, maybe I should give my opinion on this. And of course, it's The Last of Us, so my opinion is probably a bit out there compared to everybody else's. I definitely didn't have the opinion of the majority of. I didn't really share the opinion of the majority of people who enjoyed The Last of Us games. On basically either one. People were very upset with the second one. I wasn't really. I thought it all made sense, but a lot of people didn't. And The Last of Us, the original, people heaped on praise upon it, and I thought it was good, but not kind of like the overblown praise a lot of people gave it. And I think this is down to things like The Walking Dead. People having a lot of praise for The Walking Dead perhaps went into The Last of Us and enjoyed it because it had a similar kind of style of story. And the whole experience really was basically very cinematic. And I feel like that compounded onto the bandwagon, I guess, of The Walking Dead. Basically signal boosting The Last of Us and its praise. Whereas I guess I've seen a lot of gritty storylines through the years, but I didn't really buy onto The Walking Dead, and that was because like I've been gaming for a long ass time, and there's been so much media with zombies in it that I was still pretty damn burnt out with zombies in any kind of form, no matter if they're fungi or not. They basically are treated the exact same. So, I wasn't super into it. So I wasn't just like, yeah, The Walking Dead, love it, and then go into Last of Us and love that too. So there was a bit of a barrier to start with. So I thought I should just give my, I should just get out there, basically, my experiences with The Last of Us before going into the series review, so that you've got a good understanding of my opinion to start with going into this. So I liked The Last of Us. I didn't think it was groundbreaking. I liked The Last of Us 2. It did not upset me. So let's get into the series. So this is going to be about. This is going to be for The Last of Us episodes 1 and 2. And there's going to be spoilers because we already know what the story is out there. So if you don't want spoilers, I guess I'll just give a quick overview of it and a rough idea of my opinion before going into details. So this is my overall opinion, without spoilers, of episode 1 and 2 of The Last of Us. It's a very well presented show. It's in a gritty kind of. In the games, it was like slightly in the future, but this is set in 2023, so modern times, and it is a storyline after an infection spreading through the populace, decimating the populace, and people falling into small communities and people having to survive through whatever means they can. And so we're following Joel and Tess, who are smugglers in this world, who have chosen smuggling and illegal activities to better their lives in this situation. And so they go out into the dangerous areas outside the walls of of Boston, and they are trying to acquire a battery so that Joel can go off and find his brother. And I think like all the actors in it do a good job. Like I said, the visuals are great. Sound design's pretty awesome. So if you're into this kind of like post-apocalypse, kind of like zombie world aesthetic, then I feel you would probably get along with this. Basically, if you like The Walking Dead, you'll probably like this show. Okay, so let's get into spoilers. So beyond this point, there will be spoilers for episodes 1 and 2 of The Last of Us. So episode 1 starts off going back to 1968 in a talk show explaining how the infection works. However, they also outline that any cure would be impossible. Now I wonder if this is to soften up Joel's decision in the end. And now I feel like is a theme going through this. Sarah is playing a much larger role in the start. And I feel like this helps build the world prior to the outbreak. It also helps to show that her relationship with Joel, and it makes a lot more of her character, which I really appreciate. And I think this is my favorite change in the show. And there are a lot of changes they make. And I feel like a lot of these changes don't make a ton of sense or kind of hurt the world. But we'll get to that. The downside is that the sudden outbreak is even more unrealistic. There's a lack of news. There's a lack of panic. People would know. Like, there was the internet there. There's TV shows, there's news, there's radio. But it's hardly ever mentioned, really, what's going on. I think you get a little bit of a radio, hearing about something happening in Jakarta. But that's it. You don't hear about anything going on in the US. But then you see jet fighters going off and helicopters and police rushing around, which seems implausible to have them having a military build-up and a police build-up, but there's no news anywhere going on. There's no panic going on, no people leaving, fleeing. You get a shop closing early, but they don't mention why. They don't tell Sarah to be careful. They don't explain what they're doing at all. I don't know how they know what's going on, but nobody else seems to. When it's daylight happening. Like in the game, it made a little bit more sense because it happened at night. In the game, like, it all happens at night. Sarah wakes up in the middle of the night, wondering what's going on, with explosions going on, and then suddenly everything's kicking off. But it makes sense in that because you've got the fungi spreading through spores. Spores are everywhere. You just breathe it in, you become infected. You get bitten, you become infected. There's multiple ways of becoming infected really quickly in the original. However, that's not true in the show. I think there's also another weird change going on. So you've got Sarah going on, she gives the watch, which is weird. In the original, I believe she bought a watch for Joel's birthday, but in the show, she just gets an old watch of his and fixes it. So it's not a big deal, it's just a little weird of a change. And she goes home. Joel is late. There's a bit of time with neighbours. Joel is late, then he turns up at night. They watch a movie together. And then Joel's called away because Tommy's in prison for some reason. He's in jail, I mean. Not prison. He's in jail. He's been locked up. We don't know why. I don't think. Maybe got into a fight, probably. Whatever. So Joel has to leave to go bail him out. So he leaves Sarah alone in the house. Sarah wakes up. leaves the house. Neighbors are going crazy. They've been infected. Joel turns up just in time to save her, and then they drive off to leave. And Joel just lets the other neighbors die. Just tells them to go inside, even though he's fleeing. Doesn't give them a particularly good advice. Like, if you're fleeing, tell them to leave too. Not just like, oh yeah, go into your house, lock the doors, you'll be okay, but we're going, bye. And then you get to Joel having to flee from the infected, and then runs into the military. In the game, the soldier hesitates because there's a child involved. But then orders come up from above. He's to eliminate Joel and Sarah anyway, and then hesitantly does so. However, in the show, he doesn't seem to care that there's a child involved and just does it anyway. Which is an odd change. Is this to make the military look like the bad guys? And then Tommy, the soldier shoots, and then Tommy shoots the soldier. And then Sarah dies in Joel's arms. Which I thought would be more impactful, being that we spent more time with her. But unfortunately, not for me. I mean, I didn't feel that much of an impact in the game, and I don't feel much of an impact in this. I think it would have taken a few more episodes of getting to know Sarah before it would have had an impact on me. So I don't have this emotional response that the majority of people have, sadly. But then we cut to Boston in 2023. I should say that the events of the outbreak happened in 2003, so this is 20 years later. And Joel has become a drug dealer, selling drugs to the guards. And then we have another strange change. So in the original game, they were trying to sell guns, and that was the whole thing. They had guns. I don't know if they were trying to buy them. Yeah, I think they were trying to buy them from Robert. I don't know what their intention to do after that was. But they've changed this to being after a car battery instead. They want a battery. Not guns anymore. A battery. And then instead of Robert, who was in the game, this kind of like well-connected person, kind of like a mobster, I guess, a post-apocalyptic mobster. In this, Robert is just afraid of Joel for some reason. And Tess is being, I think, interrogated by Robert and his men, but they're being all apologetic, like Tess is the one that's connected instead. So they plead to her that everything's okay, not to tell Joel, and they're really sorry. And then unfortunately, Tess is caught in the Firefly bombing instead of Joel, who was caught in the bombing in the checkpoint. For some reason, the Fireflies have just planted a bomb in the middle of the street for some reason. It blows up. Robert disappears, and Tess stumbles out into the open and is caught by the Fedra guards. And then we go to Ellie, who is now being chained up and tested frequently by the Fireflies. Ellie is now a stranger to the Fireflies, which is really weird. A really weird change. Like, Ellie doesn't know who Marlene is in this. Where in the game, Marlene was basically a mother figure to her. She gave her the knife that she always carries. But in this, she's just some stranger. Like, they really don't want Ellie to have any kind of, like, motherly figure. They don't want her to have any kind of connection with Marlene. And was this a change to make Marlene less or slash, not important to Ellie? So that maybe you don't feel so strongly about what Joel does in the end? And why does Joel and Tess want a battery? Because they've changed it so Joel hasn't just abandoned his family, hasn't just ignored Tommy for God knows how many years because he became a Firefly. No, they've changed that. Now Joel loves his brother. He's always trying to connect to Tommy. Always needs to have a message from Tommy, does Joel. And because Joel hasn't heard from Tommy in weeks, he needs to go find him. Tommy's in danger. Got to get out there. Got to find him. He's not the gun smuggling, arms dealing scumbag that he really is. Unfortunately, Robert sold the battery, and so Joel needs that battery. Because he needs. How's he going to find Tommy if he doesn't have that battery? But Robert sold it. Oh dear. Like, are these weird Joel changes to make him look like less of a bad guy? I mean, it completely changes his motivation. Like, it changes his whole character, his personality. Suddenly, he's not this character that doesn't care about anything. He's not this selfish character that doesn't care about anyone and will hurt anyone in his way to serving his own ends. So they go after Robert, and then they get to Robert's location. It turns out, no, not Tess and Joel are going to kill all of Robert's men and Robert himself. No. It was actually the Fireflies. The Fireflies have killed them all. And the Fireflies... well, they didn't take the battery because the battery was rubbish. So, Fireflies killed Robert because it was a bad deal. And they brought the immune girl, Ellie, who's someone they're desperate to keep safe. They brought her to the deal. Well done, Marlene. That was stupid. So now Marlene and some other random Firefly, who we have no idea who that is, have tasked Tess and Joel to now escort Ellie out of the city. Smuggle her out of the city and take her to the other Fireflies at the Capitol building. They but Joel really needs to see his brother, who's really worried about, so he agrees. So they go outside and, being the terrible smugglers they are, immediately get caught by the federal guards. Look, it's the federal guard we were selling drugs to. But he's not very happy with us. So he's going to arrest us. So he gets them all down on the ground and tests them. Oh dear, Ellie's infected. So they explicitly show Joel's psychological transference of Sarah onto Ellie with flashbacks. Oh yeah, but I forgot to mention that on their way to Robert, there was an infected stuck to the wall, but nobody was wearing gas masks. Like, spores are no longer a thing, making the spread of the infection so quickly very implausible. Or why everyone is so afraid to explore. Why aren't you sending out people outside if there aren't any spores? So if you can hear them or see them, stay away from them and you'll be fine. Like, that was the whole point. That's the whole point of them melding to the walls. And why it's so dangerous to go through buildings, because of spores. But they've removed that. I mean, I guess they did this through, act of vanity and ego. You're paying for these people. We don't want to put gas masks on them. No way. Gotta see their faces. I mean, so overall, I thought it was fairly faithful of the original. I did enjoy it. Like, I did enjoy the episode. Wasn't bad. And my favorite part was Sarah being expanded. I thought that was really good. It helped flesh out the world. It did cause issues, though, with the fact that it seemed like the infection was happening, like the spread was happening, like in like the early afternoon, but then it was kind of like glossed over about what the hell was going on until late at night. And then they make strange changes where it seems like they're trying to sanitize Joel because they don't want you to realize that he's a terrible person. And they don't want him to be a terrible person. They want you to feel for him. That's what it feels like. They're going to make other people, like make Fedra, make them more of the bad guys. We can't have any kind of sympathy for them. We can't have any kind of understanding with them of why they're doing the things. Go have them like the faceless villain. You've got to have the Fireflies being the gun-toting heavy people, and not Joel and Tess. And you've also, like, Tess has been really watered down. Like, Tess was, like, such a badass in the game. But they've, like, neutered her. And it's not the issue, like, it's not the actor's fault. It is the choices of, like, the director and the writers and the showrunners. They've decided to change Joel's and Tess's personality for whatever reason. Decided that Marlene can't be the mother figure of Ellie with what she was in the game. They didn't really expand on it much in the game, and they completely ignored Marlene, which was awful in Last of Us 2. Like, they did Marlene really dirty, and I'll never forgive them for that. Unless they put her in Last of Us 3 and show what Marlene really was like, because like you see glimpses of it in like the DLC for Last of Us. But yeah, they really need to show in Last of Us 3 what Ellie's thoughts are on the whole Marlene situation. But anyway, I'm like digressing. But yeah, episode 1 I thought was good, had some issues. So episode 2 starts off with showing the initial events at the start of the spread in Jakarta, and I thought that was really good. It showed you through the kind of like the eyes of someone first being approached with it, like a scientist who was an expert in fungi. I mean, it didn't really go into too much depth, but I thought it was nice to see how some of the rest of the world was handling it. I mean, I think it would have been nice to know if they did bomb the place, because she said you should bomb it. Did they take her word seriously? I guess no, because it spread everywhere else. It's just hard to know. Did it spread despite their efforts, or did they make very little efforts in containing it? So Joel, Ellie and Tess, they skip the collapsed skyscrapers and instead go into a hotel, which I think was much later on in the game. And I thought this was really good. I think they did a really good job of making that hotel look at it as it did in the game. And, you know, there's a bit of playfulness with Ellie joking around. I really liked that. And the exploration, going through the rubble. I thought that was really good. I don't think it makes a lot of sense, though, that the fungi will be spreading all over the surfaces. Like, if it can't infect anything with spores, like, why is it just attaching itself to stuff? If it can't, then spread. Like, it's just going there to surfaces to die, which kind of goes against the point. Especially as this is the fungus that is based on a fungus that infects ants and like zombifies ants. And what does that do? The zombified ant, when it's near death, it will go to a place that lots of ants travel through, and then it will die there, and then the fungus will come out of the ant and then fire out spores so it can infect another ant. So why are these dead, infected, then attaching themselves to walls where they can't spread because the spores don't spread the infection? It's only weird, like, tentacle tongue kissing like a xenomorph and biting, in fact. So why on earth are they, like, giving up and attaching themselves to walls? It doesn't make any sense. Like, they messed that up completely because let's get rid of spores but have them act the exact same way. But they go through the hotel, which is really good. Then they go through the museum, and that was fantastic. That was amazing. The sound design of the clickers, perfect. The visual, like the makeup or CGI, I don't know what they did on the clickers, amazing. You know, the art department and sound department, perfect. You guys, I hope you guys win awards maybe. But you guys did an amazing job. Like, that museum was really tense and scary to a point. Joel seemed to be able to fight off the clickers a bit too easily. I mean, clickers are supposed to be, if they get hold of you, it's supposed to be a death sentence. So it would have been better, in my opinion, to be a bit more sneaky and have less confrontations. Have them, if there is, like, the clicker coming for them, have them, like, block up barricade doors or something to get away rather than actually fighting them off with your hands. They did shoot them a few times, and it was good that they didn't instantly die. But yeah, I think they're a bit too hands-on with the clickers, in my opinion. It didn't hurt the scene, I just was a little bit taken back. Because it's like, well, you're supposed to be lethal, but you're not. So hopefully, going forward in like the other episodes, they will show how lethal the clickers are. Because they really diminished that in this episode. But it was still good. But then we've got a strange change. So instead of the Fireflies making it all the way to the Capitol building, only to be hunted down and killed by the Fedra, the Fireflies are instead incompetent in survival, it seems. So they just get infected and die. Which kind of lessens the Fireflies, in my opinion. Like, I felt like it was pretty good in the game where the Fireflies had made it all that way, and like they can go through the area just as well, or if not better, than Tess and Joel. But then, because of their terrorism acts in Boston, and probably what they thought, like they saw the dead guard and probably assumed Fireflies, they then maybe found their tracks or something and then hunted them down to the Capitol building and killed them all. Just as they'd left Boston, like they'd done their work in Boston and they were just leaving Boston behind. And after they'd finished there, got killed. Like, that's sad, but you diminished that, you took that away by having them killed by infected instead. But then I guess with new Joel, new peaceful Joel, new good guy Joel, you can't have him killing countless people like the mass murderer he really is by having him kill all the federal people. And it is starting to feel like this show is propaganda, like a propaganda piece for Joel, to make Joel look like the good guy. And then another strange change, that they've made the cordyceps, I think it's called, they've made the cordyceps a hive mind? Which now changes things massively. So every time you kill an infected, why is the hive mind not being like, oh, send more zombies to go kill the people that just killed us? There's people there, go over there. But then they were touching the weird, like, tentacle fungi thing on the ground. Maybe they'd have to be outside. Maybe that's why they didn't come for them in the museum. Which is, in that case, every time a infected or clicker or whatever gets killed where there's an ability to touch the ground, why aren't the infected rushing in? That's going to be my question going forward. They better keep to that, now that they've set that up. So episode 2, again I liked. I really liked the hotel exploration and the museum. But they keep adding these weird changes and these weird things to make Joel look less bad. Not this insane psychopath who just like kills everybody. And doesn't care about anyone. And is fine with gun running. They've scrapped all that. Which is really interesting. It's like, what are you doing? I don't know, what do you think of these changes? Are you okay with these changes? Do you think it's a bit weird, some of these changes? Do you think like this is a propaganda piece for Joel? And what do you think about the cordyceps being a hive mind suddenly? Do you think there's going to be any parts in what's coming up that's going to be massively changed by this? Which won't make sense. And how much of a hive mind is it? Do they all think as one? Which in that case, traps wouldn't work. Because they'd know where a trap is, and they'd go around it. Yeah, it definitely creates more questions than it solves. But I do like the show. Maybe I'm coming across as really negative, but I really like the show. The changes baffle me, considering like Neil Druckmann, who wrote the game, is also writing this. I don't know if someone higher up is just saying these are the changes we want to make. Deal with it, and he has no power. Yeah, I'm baffled. And the pacing's kind of weird. Because you get these little snippets of different places, which is interesting. I'm not saying they're bad. They're interesting, they're okay. But then, like, you're kind of condensing the story. The journey. You're condensing the journey. So you spend time in Jakarta, which is fine. But then we skip over the collapsed skyscrapers. So they've already made it past there. And then you go straight into the hotel. And then straight into the museum. And then you're straight to the Capitol building. So you've already got past the Capitol building in episode 2. But I hope they do add in these exploration moments. Because these exploration moments have been the best moments of the show so far. And she's really good at playing, I can't remember her name, but the girl's is doing a really good job of playing Ellie in those moments. And so I hope there's more of that. But yeah, this is just my review for episode 1 and 2 of The Last of Us. And I look forward to watching episode 3. But yeah, this is my review of it. No doubt it's going to be completely different to everybody else's. But there we go. Hey, if everyone was the same, the world would be less interesting. Right? That's what I'm told. Thank you for watching.